Feliz ano novo, pessoal! Olá, 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 bem-vindo a mais um episódio do DevHoops. Eu sou o DevHoops e hoje, gurizadinha, eu vou, antes de tudo, feliz 2025, feliz 2025 para todos nós. Como vocês devem estar imaginando pela thumb, Ai, bati minha mão, so sad. Anyway, como estamos continuando um novo ano chegando, 2025, é um ano mágico esse ano, né? Um número que basicamente ele é um quadrado perfeito, ele é o 45 ao quadrado, acredito eu. Não me lembro ao certo, me lembro que ele é um número especial, porém, ele é um ano especial para nós por quê? Porque hoje, em homenagem ao meu primeiro vídeo do ano que eu vou gravá-lo, hoje eu vou fazer um vídeo inteiramente com uma língua nova também, que nesse caso vai ser inglês. Eu vou fazer o vídeo inteiramente em inglês antes que qualquer coisa aconteça. Eu quero também treinar um pouquinho meu inglês um pouco mais e ao mesmo tempo eu quero fazer isto. Eu preciso também melhorar um pouquinho a minha conversação com vocês. Então provavelmente vai ser muito interessante, vai ser ótimo. So, 1, 2, 3, starting now. I will be only speaking in English for you people. Whatever you are, where are you? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, let's talk about Emacs, right? Emacs, as you have probably noticed on my past videos, is my favorite editor. I do love this editor. I do love it with all my heart. It does everything that I need and it does it well. That's pretty much my only reason to use it anyway. Probably better than VS Code ever did. Anyway, right, shade aside. Vim is also an amazing editor that I do use it a lot, and I do have them in my system. If I were to show you right now, Vim, I do have Vim, I do have NeoVim, and I also have Emacs, more specifically no window version, which is then just going to be opening Emacs on the terminal window anyway. It doesn't really matter. As you can probably see, I guess I'm in front of you people. Whoops. There we go. New transitions. Anyway, let's go back to this. As you can probably see, this is my current Emacs configurations. I also have Vim, and I also have NeoVim, right? I do love these editors with all my heart. They are no better than anyone else. But these are probably my trifecta of forever editors that I'll probably be using. And anyway, I'll get closer for you now. As you have probably seen by my videos, is that I did make myself a Venom Emacs distribution, right? In other words, I made my distribution of Emacs called Venom. And I learned some things from maintaining a distribution with no users, but a few people have tested. And to be fair, it's too much work for any normal person like myself. I do have other obligations in life as well. I will not maintain a distribution. I only made it as an experiment to start something bigger. And the thing is, it did not work. So it's probably best just to archive this thing where I'm not going to maintain it anyway. I do not have any plans to maintain it. I do have other plans when it comes to software development, but it's not making an Emacs distribution. But I do have a project of mine that I'll be working with you, as you've probably seen by the video title once again. I will be rewriting my configs that I always do every year anyway, right? Might as well just rewrite the entire thing. For I've learned some things from this past year when it comes to software development, and I do find myself following some trends, right? One of these trends is that if I were able to just, get out of the way, there we go. Like things like the Kickstarter projects. These are projects that they are meant to be just a kickstart for whatever you want to do. One such case is this one, Kickstart.nvim. Kickstart.nvim has to be my favorite project when it comes to kickstarting someone's configuration for anything. Now, I do am a big defender. I do find that whenever you do something like a personal development environment or a PED, right, or PED, right, or PDE, PED or PDE, a personal environment. No, it's a personal development environment, so it's a PDE, right? Whatever, it's a PDE, and these PDEs, they are meant to be a reflection of the developer, right? And the distribution, the problem of any distribution that you find is that they are not meant to be as this is going to burn me a bit, but distributions, they're nothing more than the configuration of someone else's personal, and I will say individual desires for their development workflow, how they would like things to be configured, is their own way of seeing development, right? Such as, for an example, imagine if Android Studio was an Emacs distribution. This person is probably focused more in Android development. Eclipse, the person is probably a little bit sick in the head, but it does work, and it is a really powerful Java development environment. Or, for an example, IntelliJ, another great Java development environment. And again, these distributions, these imaginary distributions of Emacs, they would be focused on their development workflows. But the thing is, when it comes to the Kickstarter, something like NeoVim, something like heck Emacs, there are many Kickstart Emacs projects that we will during this video having as reference, right? I'm not gonna steal anything, of course not. But the thing is, these projects, they are meant to be a starting point for people to use, which is a little bit easier than starting from scratch, especially when it comes to vanilla Emacs or vanilla Vim for that matter, right? When it comes to Vim, I remember when I started Vim, and if it wasn't for this thing, it was awesome Vim. If it wasn't for this website, I would have been miserable when it came to Vim. Right? Everything here made sense. These packages were amazing and they worked flawlessly with me when it came to Vim. With NeoVim, I think that 99% of these projects will still work, so they are still really good repository for extensions that you can add to your editor. But again, they are just editors. They are supposed to edit your text, right? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be restarting and we're just, again, starting close from scratch our kickstart Emacs configurations, right? So first things first, I'll just clone this once again. This thing is no longer going to be a project now. I need to go to my configs. I will just, whoops. Okay, that's fine. Excuse me, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is my Emacs that I have in there, I will just have to back it up for a moment. So I'm just going to move Emacs into Emacs. I'm going to call this back. I'm going to call this 2023. There we go. Renamed Emacs into Emacs 2023. There we go. So now Emacs no longer exists. Perfect, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just clone the thing into Emacs. Cloning into Emacs. There we go. It is an empty repository. For now, what we need to do is remember that we are just creating our thing, right? So first things first, I'm just going to chain myself into Emacs, right? There we go. Now I'm just going to do myself as the readme, readme.org. I will still use org mode for, again, we're making something that needs to work. So readme.org is probably that we're going to be using as the starting point for everything. I will just git add, just to check if everything is working as intended. Git status. There we go. Git commit initial. I'll just probably add readme.org. There we go. And finally git push. Right. So this is our first commit, will be the readme file, nothing too important, as you can probably see. Now the thing is, one of the important aspects of any Kickstart project is that the readme file could be our init file. Now, is it easy to use? Is it going to be convenient? I don't think so. Probably, to be fair, I would be much happier to have something like a config.org file that has the entire configuration that we'll need, instead of having the readme file be the configuration. We could still use, but it's not going to be useful. It's probably not going to be easy either. So what we're going to be doing is, the readme file is exclusively to describing what Kickstarter is, and we're going to have a config.org file that will have the configuration itself, And the init.el file will probably be either the Babel file. No, it will be just the initiation file, which in it will contain the init.el, something like that, right? So let's start with the easy stuff. So the first thing that we're going to need is we are in here right now, oh, there we go. This is pointless. Back to the terminal. Now, let's start by actually containing and adding some real information. First one is the touch init.el, which is where all Emacs projects will begin by initiating the init.el thing, or we could just go to the emacs.d directory if it was useful to anyone besides, I don't know, maybe it's Zodin. I don't know, someone, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to have init.el, and we're probably going to have custom.el too. If I'm not mistaken, this is where we can store custom variable configurations. Now again, this is probably going to be useful for someone because again, everything will be inside the the config.org file that we're going to create. Might as well just do it right now. Config.org. There we go. And in config.org, we'll have the entire thing which will be babbled in the init.el thing. But custom.el, as you know, will be the custom variable configurations. Because there's a reason why we're going to do that. I will explain it later. But in sum, it just means that when you create something that is a custom thing, it will generally be just appended to the init.el. So imagine that you have everything you've written in your configuration, and your init.el file would be only the babbled config file, right? But the thing is, in Emacs, once you configure something or something is configured for you in a package, for an example, right? That thing will, as you probably mentioned, as I have previously mentioned, will be appended into the file. So the thing that you remembered will probably not be that anymore. It will be an altered file. So you would probably have to auto revert mode initiated and just have it like update and just bugs would happen, right? It's not a good idea. It's not a good thing to have. So the thing is, this is all that we're going to need when it comes to basic kickstarting something with Emacs, right? So before we do anything, right, we can probably just test out and see if anything will happen if I initiate Emacs right now, right? So if I were to start Emacs again, it should probably be just a white screen with nothing in it, with a bunch of problems right now. Now the thing is, I despise the way that Emacs does editing files, right? It's just really bad. We're probably going to need to start by actually just fixing Emacs prior to actually ever opening Emacs. And I really dislike some key bindings when it comes to Emacs. But the thing is, I'm using a different keyboard. As you probably remembered, I'm using a split keyboard. So I did make some conveniences to myself. But one very important thing is that we need to remember some key bindings prior to do anything, right? So before we do anything, let me just do some configurations of this. And once again, I will be taking some venom-emacs ideas that I've, again, did in the past. First one is I'm just going to steal my own work, which is remembering how to babbling a file. Again, this is only useful for the context of configuration, and probably that's it. For org files, they are really useful for some things, and others they're just pointless. They're just a markdown files and just markdown anyway, so might as well. So the thing is, I configured this so it would be having it would be just having every file just be describing what it's going to be doing, right? It's useful, but again, so are comments. And you can probably just comment the entire thing in org files anyway, and it will be just parsed in the web browsers. So it's, again, why would you do this? It's not that useful. Might as well just have the entire thing parsed in the file when Emacs does it. So now I'm just going to copy that. And now what I'm going to do is Ctrl+XF to find the file, config, Emacs. And the thing is, this will be the only thing that I will have in my init.el file. I think it was Ctrl+Y for indeed, for yanking. And the thing is, that's what it is. It is the Emacs path to an org file, which will be Babel, right? In that situation, what's going to happen is that once you have that Babel, the Emacs thing would just say, well, babbling means converting this or just taking every source code and just doing literal programming, which in that sense would be take all the source blocks that you have code in it, and that will be converted into a file that I can do anything with it. It's meta programming, I don't know, probably something like that. Anyway, we have the config, Emacs, and now we have, it was the, I think it was config.org. The name of the thing is config.org. Exactly. There we go. So it is config.org file. Again, nothing will actually happen for now, right? So the thing is, if I were to save this file, no, I don't want to debug anything. Really? Anyway, now it should be Control XS to save the file. Save file in .el. Yes, I do want to save it. Okay, there we go. No file needs saving now, so the init.el file is all that we had to do now. It's that. Perfect. Now, what we're going to do is take some considerations and just remember how Emacs, or better yet, what is the language that we need to use to configure Emacs, right? As you probably remember, and I did show this a few times, I guess, that is, Emacs configures everything in Lisp code, Emacs Lisp. And Emacs Lisp is not a very easy to understand language. I kind of dislike it a bit. It's not easy to read, but it's there, and it's interesting, right? It's an interesting language. I had a friend once tell me that in his mind, Lisp was functional programming at its peak, or better yet, at its core, it is just functional programming. I don't know where he's coming with this. Probably something from, I don't know, Narnia or something. Again, no clue. Have no idea where the hell he's coming with these. Anyway, let's just go back to something more manageable, right? So now this thing is our init.el thing. And what I'll do is, first of all, now, because I am a kind of a weird person, again, save the file. Yes, I want to save that. Now what I need to do is find my config.org file. There we go. This is my org file. Org files can take an advantage. Oh yeah, right. I forgot about that. We can use org mode, right? Org mode, as you probably have guessed already, is the mode where org files shine. Now the thing is this enabled? I don't even know. It's hard to check if the org mode is actually enabled or not. Let me see again for the org mode. I cannot even notice any difference at all. So let me just restart Emacs and see what happens. Save file config.org. Nope. Modified buffer exit anyway. Yes, there we go. I'll just restart Emacs once again. No differences at all happen. I would suppose an error occurred while loading Emacs init.el. File missing, cannot open load a file. No such file or directory config.el. No such file or directory config.el. Of course, right. The thing is, because I had nothing inside of the config.org file, we had this issue. No problems at all. No, there's nothing to be ashamed of or not even afraid of. Oh my goodness. No, just kidding. Right, so what happened is that the config.org cannot be babbled if it's empty, right? So the thing is, because it is an empty file, we're going to have the same error every time, right? So it has the recover this file, has an auto save data thing. I'm not going to save data that I do not need anyways. But the thing is, this guy in here, I totally forgot about that. I need to kill this buffer. There we go. Kill buffer the warnings, of course. And now I need to kill frame or kill window. Kill buffer and window, right? So the thing is, I killed the buffer and the window. Actually, not ideal. Once again, Emacs. And from Emacs, now I need to go into the config.org file. There we go. Okay, there we go. Fine. Now again, we are using the config.org file. This config.org thing is where we're going to have a bunch of information that will be babbled. And in that situation, what's going to happen is we need to convert literate programming into code. Right? In other words, we need to do is have a bunch of source blocks where in them we are just going to say, well, this source block goes before this one, which comes before this one, which comes before this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And what happens is that we have a bunch of appended data, one after the other, and that data will just have it pasted into a new buffer where the thing is, well, we have the config.el file, which now is just a bunch of Lisp scripts, one on top of the other, which that Emacs can do something about it. Or better yet, it can actually parse it. So anyway, my mustache is on my nose. Anyway, what we're going to start by doing right now is we're going to test some really basic things, right? In other words, we have the default Emacs configurations, and here we have some custom file things, which is, again, the first thing I'm going to do is I do want to see my custom.el file do something about it. In other words, we have to define where it is. So we need to define where the custom file variable is. I'm just going to do this. I'm just copying this. And then here, I'm just going to do is I'll have this guy be the custom file, right? And now what I'm going to do is I can do probably is org insert structure template. I think that's it, right? Structure template means that I can actually do this, and now I can do Emacs Lisp, right? So the thing is, this is a source block now, where in here I can do is actual programming, right? And because this is actual programming, I can do some Lisp code, and here's where the magic happens, right? So the thing is, we have defining where our custom file will be, and this custom file that we have available is what we're going to be using. Again, it is inside of the root of the same project, so it does know where it is. So now the good thing about this is, if we were to test this once again, let's just do this. I will save the file, the config.org file. Yes, I will. And now I'll just restart Emacs once again. And now we should not, we should not have any errors anymore. For now, one really interesting thing just happened, right? Our file that we just babbled, it just babbled it, right? And the thing is, because it's just a babble, it will not do much before besides just do the obvious, right? But the thing is, we just need to go back there. I'm just going to show you. We have the find file Emacs. We'll open diars, and you'll see now that the config.org that we have available has generated the config.el. Config.el is only these two lines that we created. Again, these are just two lines that were appended to the file. Pretty useful, if you say so. I do say so. Anyway, let's just go back to Emacs. I'll just do the config.org file. There we go, perfect. Now we have the custom file in there. I should really do some zoom. Did I just kill it with the default bindings? What did I just do? Hello? I think I just killed Emacs. That's a new one. I did not know that. Anyway, config Emacs. Now what I'm going to do is config.org. Here we go. Config.org is back. What's next? Right. So now the thing is, we need to do more of the same thing. Now let's just go back a bit and just see some default things that I did. Disable the messenger buffer, the default messenger buffer. I don't think that works anymore. And to be fair, it's probably useful for me now to keep it. Color theming. I'm not going to change the color theme now. I should probably just do this the old-fashioned way, or if I'm gonna do this, I will probably need to do is load the themes that come available prior to doing anything. I do remember something like a white deeper blue maybe, right? Just so that I can not kill my eyes. I can probably just use this for a moment. So what I'm going to do now is I just need to load the theme, which that is something interesting for us to just take into account. This is probably going to be something that I'm not going to use anymore. That is to have a custom directory with themes that I would just download them or whatever. And here I did the modus vivaldi, whatever. I was a weird guy back then. What I'm going to do now is just call the load theme thing and just say, well, load a theme, and that theme will no longer be new material for the moment. And that theme that I'm going to be using now is probably going to be just the dark or blue, whatever that I called it. Anyway, right, let's just keep up with this. There we go now. We have theme, or just color theme. There we go. Once again, we have org insert structured template. If I'm not mistaken, it is the same one as before. We have source. It is control C. Oh yeah, indeed, it is the same one. There we go. I never changed that. I don't know if that is supposed to be a. I never changed the default key binding for this command. I don't, and the thing is, I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing. To me, it is a good thing that you can actually use default key binding at the same time. Like I'm doing it right now, and the thing is, it's not that bad, but it's just that Vim motions are just so much better, and just to bind Vim motions with everything just makes more sense to me. Anyway, right? So the thing is, I needed to do now is load the team, which is exactly the name of the function called load team, right? The theme itself is, let's see, what's the name of the theme? Disable theme. Deeper blue, that's the name. Deeper blue, T. And now it is a T thing or it is something else. For the thing is, this is one of the most, these are one of the things that I really do not get about Emacs. And let me just get closer a bit, right? Someone needs to tell me about this. I do not know what this is. I do not know how this works. But the thing is, there are some things in Emacs that do not make sense to me. Some of them are T, nil, +1, and -1. Like, I've tried making sense out of this. Probably I'm just either just too dumb or I haven't read the right thing yet. For an Emacs, there were variables, there were methods, and there were something in between, right? That you can actually define what they do. Nil, for all my life, would probably be something like null or not. But in here, it almost looks like something between 0 and null. I do not know what it is. It's not an integer. It's not devoid. It's not nothing. It's whatever. And the thing is, Emacs is probably using something that I do not know, and I need to know what it is. Bruh. Now, I'm just being a little bit over dramatic. Anyway, again, as you can probably see, this is working. And so if I were to test this once again, I'm going to load deeper blue as my default theme. And now as we can see, now Emacs has something that does not kill my eyes as I am coding. Now I can just do this, Emacs. Now we have config.org. There we go. Once again, we're back in here. Now this is kind of weird. Let me see if I can actually do this with my mouse. So if I were to do, oh yeah, there we go. I can actually do some real things. There we go. Oh, and one more thing that you probably don't know. In Emacs, the real and best desktop environment and best window manager you're going to actually have and the best text editor that you're going to actually have. In the context of Emacs, there is something amazing called the tab key. And I think I'm in front of you again. There we go. Right. Speaking of it, we have something called the tab key. The tab key is one of the most important characters ever to be created when it comes to programming. Some languages take to the point of having it be your way of syntaxing your code. Python developers everywhere, cry on your abyss. I don't know, something like that. I do love Python, right? Anyway, the thing is, for most development environments, for most text editors, tab is just a tab. Tab is just a thing that shows and moves the entire line forward the amount of times you want. But the thing is, in Emacs, the default and best tech developer environment ever, a tab is supposed to tabulate your code according to some rules. Some of them very specific, such as, for an example, Emacs list needs to have these lines all on top of the other. But the thing is, once you tab these, Emacs, smart as it is, will tab the entire paragraph forward because it knows that this is the correct way to syntax and to write code into source blocks in a way that is readable. See? There we go. Right? Keep on going. The default scratch buffer message. I dislike the default scratch buffer message, so I'm just going to copy this once again and just keep on going. Default buffer message, right? There we go. Wow. Emacs Lisp. No. There we go. Right, the initial scratch message now would just be that. There we go. Simple as it could be. Let's just keep on going forward. We have disable fringes. This is something useful, but the thing is, I don't remember what a fringe is, and now I can actually use this opportunity for me to show something really interesting about Emacs. That is, Emacs can describe itself. Now, I do not remember what was the name of the command. I guess it was describe. I think it was describe variable or something. Describe variable for. Let me remember what was the thing. The name of the variable was frame mode. So the thing is frame mode, undelete frame mode. Okay, so it's not a variable. So it's describe mode, probably, right? But the thing is describe mode, if I do not show any mode, whoops, and that's, where the hell am I right now? Oh no, I think I just killed the entire thing once again. Oh no. Now that's interesting. What did I just do? Well, whatever. There we go. Let's try that once again. I just killed Emacs for the first time on this recording. Sure, why not? Anyway, let's just keep on going with this. config.org. I do not care for what I just did there. It doesn't really matter. There we go. And that's enough. The default scratch message, perfectly fine. Now the thing is the fringe mode, let me just found. Describe mode. Describe something like, I think it was describe function maybe? No, describe function now, but describe mode is probably the best. For now, the thing is, if I were to go all the way here, I can actually find it somewhere, and it is the fringe mode. If I were to find it, probably it's Control S for fringe. If I were to use the correct buffer, right? Now in here it's undefined. There we go. Now it is fringe mode. Okay, so fringe mode is not even available. So the thing is, let me just kill this thing now. It's kill window, buffer and window. There we go. Right, so let me just see. What is the fringe mode? Select fringe mode for all frames. Right, it is the default half width, no fringes and left only. But the thing is, we need to find what it is, the fringe mode. So we have Emacs fringe mode, right? Fringes in Emacs. Let's see what GNU.org tells us what it is. On graphical displays, each window normally has narrow fringes on the left and right edges. The fringes are used to display symbols that provide information about the text in the window. You can type fringe mode to toggle display of fringes on the modify their width. This command affects widget fringes in all frames. To modify fringes on the selected frame only, use set fringe style. You can make your changes to the fringes permanent by customizing the fringe mode. The thing is, I defined it in here to have fringe mode be null. So the thing is, fringe mode is 0. In that sense, fringe mode does not exist. So the thing is, if I were to define the fringe mode has no fringes, so I would probably say no fringes, they all disappear. Which is fine, right? It's okay. I do not find that to be that useful anyway. I do not want to see the error in my code anyway. I'll probably see that in the compiler. Again, Tazodin logic. And okay, that's enough, even for me. Anyway, but let's just disable the fringes anyway. Fringe mode. Okay. So the thing is, fringe mode, if I were to default this, is disable fringes. There we go. So it's disable fringes. Once again, source, emacs, emacs, Lisp, fringe, mode as 0. So in other words, I'm not going to default this to anything. That should be enough. Fringes. Whoops. There we go. Yes, save this. Once again, and now if I were to restart this or just do one more very important thing, that is let's just say that we have fringe mode once again, and in fringe mode we have the default fringes again. The thing is, this will default to having, again, this guy. But now, if we were to do something like init.el once again, I can babble this as I edit. And that's one amazing thing that we can actually do with org mode, and more specifically with Emacs. If we were to eval buffer, it will default to just, again, evaluate it. It will evaluate the source code and just do it on the fly. And this is amazing, right? This is so good to update the thing without having to restart it. I'm so happy. Okay, continue on. One thing I can probably do is Control XP, switch to buffer default, config.org. There we go. We're back. Okay, next we need to do is probably fix gaps on Window Manager. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one for it. I do not know if this error or this mistake or whatever it is still exists, so I'm just going to not do it. For what would happen is, previously on, I would probably say like 10 years ago, not even 10 years, I would probably say like last year, I was fixated a bit with DWM. DWM was my favorite desktop environment, so much that I'm using it for this time now. But the thing is, I've passed this moment in my life. But the thing is, I still had some issues when it came to Emacs with DWM. And the thing is, I think this does not exist anymore, so it's perfectly fine. So I'm not gonna do this right now. Right? Anyway, let's keep on. Then we have the splash screen. I think that 99% of people dislike the splash screen as a kickstart thing. It's perfectly fine. Let's just remove this. Whoops. Yoink. Disable. Disable. My goodness. I actually am gonna just do is the splash screen. Splash screen. Emacs list. There we go. I would just say that inhibit the splash screen. There we go. What else? Then I'm gonna do now transparency. Like the thing is, I can just have that there too, just for the sake of having it. Again, transparency is something that most people will probably have some knowledge and will probably have some opinion about it. Transparency. I myself do not mind transparency, but the thing is, I have never had any use for semi-transparent or full transparent, you know, desktop environments or even editors. I've always liked to have my configs to have an opaque background, especially as I grew worse in my vision. Anyway, let's just keep it as alpha with 100. You can change it as you see fit. Let's just see how this will go. And just so that I can actually prove to you that this is actually working, let's just have this at 80% and just have a good view of my background color. Whoops, sorry, not that. What I was gonna do now is, I can even show you something actually that is pretty cool. I can actually evaluate the command buffer as now, and it will probably just do it. And again, it will just execute this inside of Emacs, and inside of Emacs, it will just say, well, because this is being evaluated as Lisp, and I do know what it is, I by default, and more specifically, not me, but Emacs, I know what to do with this. And the thing is, this is supposed to be in the context of Emacs operating inside of itself. It's really cool. And then we have the results back here. And as you can see now, my transparent background actually works. Yay. I hate that default control and K doesn't clear the entire line. It just clears up to the point where you are, which is not bad, but it's not useful either. Anyway, let's keep on. 80% it is. I can change it later. I'll probably have it at 100 in the future. This one, I'm just going to copy it immediately, for I do need this. Anyway, where was I? Indeed. We have, before I do anything, actually, I'll just yoink. For these are all, again, menu bars that we have available that we can actually disable by default. As you can see now, we can actually disable is the menu bar mode. Actually, where are you right now? Menu bar. This should be enabled somewhere, or better yet, this should be able for me to close it at any time. Close. Well, as you can probably have guessed, this it did not work. And here's one of the things that I probably dislike about this, as you probably can notice many times. 0 and -1 when it comes to modes, I have no idea what they mean, right? Sometimes it's -1, sometimes it's 0. I have no idea how to define when one means to disable something, when something means to not be called. I don't know. People have weird ways to see this. In my sense, in my opinion, this will just be the menu bar. This is the toolbar. My goodness. Toolbar and the scroll bar. Now, for 99% of people, I guess all of these will be disabled. For it doesn't make much sense for anyone else. I don't think there's, I don't know anyone that actually use any of these as disabled. No, what I meant to say is that I never met anyone that I've seen using Emacs and did not have these 3 disabled. You can enable if you want to, it's just, it's the same thing as using light themed to code. I've seen people do that, and they are just weird, man. They're just weird. Why would you do that? No. There we go. See? Now these are all enabled. I can just parse these myself. There we go. There we go. I'll just save this once again. And now I can probably just do individually each one just to show you what would happen. But the thing is, I don't want to. So what I'm going to do is the lazy thing to do. First, I'll just save this. There we go. Right. Now what I'm going to do is, because I've saved this, I can just do is now we're wanting to switch to buffer init.el. I will eval the buffer once again. There we go. Now we just disabled each one of my menu bar that we had available before that. Perfectly fine. Now this is much better. Much better. Whoops, it's this one, switch to buffer config.org. And the good thing about this is because now we have this much cleaner environment, our real estate has just increased dramatically now. We have saved so much in real estate area for our code that we can actually do much more now and just read more code, right? Again, all developers should, thrive when more code is available. But now we have a really useful, and I would probably say a good starting point for our Kickstart project when it comes to Emacs. Pretty cool, right? How much time? No, we don't even have an hour. Easy. Easy money, right? Next, now we're probably going to configure some font families. Now, I am a big, JetBrains enjoyer, right? I do enjoy a lot of what JetBrains have to offer for us, and one of them is their nerd font. Their nerd font. I'll be right back. I'll just get myself some water. Wow. Whew. Okay. Next, what we need to do is configure some font families, right? In that scenario is going to be only one font family, which will be my nerd font that I love the most, which is JetBrains Mono. But you can use any type of JetBrains family or any type of font that you desire, right? Because in here, we're just going to set the face attribute. Setting a face attribute in here is nothing more than just setting the font family that will be used, right? So we do have is font family, and now I'm just going to do this source emacs Lisp. I'll just yank that there. Another thing is the family will be the JetBrains Mono Nerd Font family, and I'll use Nerd Font for the sake of, again, I do enjoy myself some things like, but not limited to, icons. It's really useful, and it does help a lot when it comes to more, you know, esoteric programming, bash scripts or something like that. Anyway, now the thing is, because this would work, now again, just to show you, yes, now I do have JetBrains as my font family that is being used in my Emacs configs. Great. But the thing is, you can also do this by default just by, again, setting a face attribute. Set face, where was it? You can do set some faces or something like that. Set face font, maybe. Set face font, set font related attribute, or face default org block end line. Now it's not that. Font. Now where was he? It's set font, set face font maybe, or frame font. Let's see face font. Okay, not what was I intended to see, but okay, it's simple, something like that. But it is a custom variable you can do. I don't remember which one it is, but I can just begin. I can do this later, but this is probably what we're going to be using. Next, what we need to do. Line numbers. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one. For each individual person has their own perspective on this, especially when it comes to Emacs. And more specifically, line numbers in Emacs, they can come in two ways. We have normal way, like this. Okay, where was I? Is display line numbers, right? This is how 99% of editors work. They have their line numbers shown and showing them how many they have available. Now, if you are someone that do follow people like the Primogen, or follow people like, I think it was DJ or something like that, now some people that do programming. I forgot the name of the dude that it's always in the same channel as him. Whatever. I think it's TJ. Yeah, he called him TJ. I don't know his name. Sorry. Yeah, bash me later. Let's keep on going. So the thing is, most people do not write code, or better yet, most people that want to be famous, I want to say, don't program with these line numbers. For 99% of people will program like this. For it's simple and it's easy, and no one actually cares that much about line numbers anyway. Some people do. I am one of those people. I do care a lot about my line numbers. So what's going to happen is I do need to have them available. So first things first is I will just create a new topic called line numbers. And I will just not be a masochist and just keep on with the pattern that is all capital letters. So the first thing we need to do is probably add a hook that I made this in here. I don't know why that I did that. Why did I made this do in both prog mode hook, programming mode? I added a hook for prog mode and for, okay, now I remember why I did that. For what happened is, in the past, I just said to just enable line numbers for all buffers. And that's not a good idea. Why? Simple. Imagine yourself in diary mode having those numbers on each individual file, directory that you're looking at. It's not useful, especially in things like diary. So what's going to happen is, for first things first, what we need to do is just copy this, and I'll just have these shown in a way that makes more sense, right? Again, as a Kickstarter thing, we'll just think together. First things first, we have Emacs Lisp, and let's just take a look at this. First things first, line numbers. We could just do the old-fashioned way and just say that all things should have line numbers. That's not a good idea, as I just said, right? So we can probably just say just that, well, we can have line numbers being available for everything, and you can just do whatever you want later. Or we can just say that the default line numbers type is not going to be relative. For now, we can probably say is describe, is the describe variable. In that case is line number style, line number mode, probably. Okay, there we go. Line number mode is a variable defined in simple.el. Its value is t. No way of me knowing what the hell t means. Non-nil if line number mode is enabled. See line number mode command. For a description of the minor mode, you can customize this group. Okay. See the line number mode command for a description in this minor mode. Okay, fine. It's okay, but again, it is the simple.el thing. Its value is t, probably for true now, but if I were to disable it, it's probably going to be nil. So the thing is, we can probably say that is line number mode is t whenever I want to have it enabled somewhere. In the case of most developers, most people will want to have, if they're going to use this, it is a Vim-inspired Kickstarter project. In other words, it should have relative line numbers for, I don't know, people will have that need, I suppose. I don't know. To be fair, I really don't know. And to be even fair to myself, this is a really, really, really stupid thing that I just said. So I'm just going to take that back. And where was I? It was kill window, buffer and window. The thing is, buffer config.org modify config yes. No, I don't want to kill this one. Kill buffer then. It's not this buffer. Man, that's stupid. Switch buffer into the yield now. Can you please just kill this? Kill buffer. Yes. And I'll just delete window. There we go. Right? Anyway, right? So first things first. We are making line numbers to make sense to a Kickstarter project thing for Emacs inspired by Vimotions, right? We will have Vimotions. So because we're going to have Vimotions, we need to have this some way or another to make sense, right? So one thing is we have prog mode available, we have org mode hook available as well, and we can have as many as we see fit for any text buffer that we have to use. In that scenario, I'll probably just have this. I've never had any reason not to have it in here for me to display line numbers outside of these two modes, which is in prog mode or org mode for describe a function. In that scenario is prog mode, right? Prog mode, major modes for editing programming language source code, right? It's literally this one, and then we have org mode, which is the mode where you're going to edit org files, right? So that's pretty much all that I've ever had. So it's not that far-fetched. But I can probably have some more modes available, such as the text mode, I think. Is text mode a mode? It is. There is a text mode available. So I can probably just have this as many as I see fit as a default for kickstarting. So again, describe function text mode. Major mode for editing text written for humans to read. In this mode, paragraphs are delimited only by blanks or white lines. You can thus get the full benefit of adaptive filling. See variable adaptive fill mode. That adaptive fill mode is actually a really interesting thing that I will approach to this later. Anyway, line numbers aside, we do know already what we need to do. is that we can probably define that text mode, prog mode, and org mode is again text written for humans to read. We don't actually need that, so we're just gonna have that outside of most things. So we're just gonna have prog mode and org mode available on the line numbers, and so line numbers we're gonna have org mode hook for the prog mode, and just have this displaying relative line numbers. Relative line numbers, as the name implies, that they're going to be relative. But the thing is, for most people, most Vim users that I've known don't use relative line numbers. Not even Vim, by default, comes with relative line numbers. But the thing is, I'm not going to have that either. So the thing is, I'll probably customize variable, right? The customized variable thing is display line numbers type, right? The thing is, as you can see here, we have the display line numbers type that I can actually change this in the custom thing. There is a value menu, absolute line numbers, and there's a state, there's a standard that we can actually use. The thing is, we have standard, add a comment, operation on display line numbers type, add a comment, show, save, no. I want to see is the value menu. There is relative line numbers, we have relative visual line numbers, and absolute line numbers. So we have either relative or absolute. I think it's absolute that we're going to be going with. So we're just going to kill buffer. There we go. So we're just, whoops, my bad. It is, whoops, my goodness, absolute. And now, if I were to test this again, do dislike this a bit. Right, but it doesn't really matter. Yes, absolute. And now if I were to test this with relative, you can probably guess what will happen. Interesting, it did not work. What happened? Relative, did I make something bad? I don't know. Let me just do is, I should probably just do is, say this. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is switch the buffer again. I will just do is eval the buffer. There we go. We're back to where we started. And now if I were to do this, config.org. No. I think I should probably just restart the Emacs thing. Because now, once I do this, I'm in the scratch buffer now. I don't even have my thing that I had before, which was the splash screen. Perfect. Now the thing is, what I can do now is just go to the config Emacs thing, and the Emacs, I'll just go to config.org. There we go. And now because we are in default.org, now we have relative numbers by default, right? By default now our org files now have relative numbers. What that means is our numbers now, they vary, and the line that I'm currently at will give me the number of the line, but every new line is relative to that position of the cursor. In other words, I am one line down, I'm 2 lines down, so whenever I go down, I can go and see exactly how distant am I. If I want to go, for example, to the top, I can just go 10 lines up. Now, how do I do that in Emacs? I don't know, but in Vim, I know. That's why I'm not going to test it right now. I'll just test this in the future. But again, as a Kickstarter thing, this is kind of bad, especially when it comes to, again, this is a Kickstarter for a development environment that people are going to use with Vim in mind, of course. But again, we have displaying line numbers, so might as well use the default ones, which are absolute. And so now if I were to save this now, there we go. Did I save this? No saving needed. Now if I were to restart Emacs once again, I should probably have all fixed up. Okay, there we go. .config emacs config.org. Here we go. Now again, they're your absolute things, so it's not going to be an issue at all. As you can see now, these things are all there. And now I think it was Control L that I can probably just go jumping around. I don't remember which one was it. Not that useful either. Or it was Control N. Control N for new line. Control B for backwards. Control F for forwards. It was Control L for me to just lining down. I don't remember which one was it. To be fair, it doesn't really matter that much. We have line numbers, which is in this one here being disabled and enabling when I need it. So what I'm going to do now is actually just going to rewrite this. So is line numbers or line numbers modes or line number modes. Right. Actually, I'm going to call this line number hooks. Right. That makes more sense. To, and source. And in here now, I'm just going to do the same thing. Begin, source, emacs, list. So there we have the hooks for line numbers. And in here, it's going to say which type they are, right? So we have line, my goodness, line number type. Right, there we go. You can not have it. You can just disable this if you need. Again, I've seen people not have line numbers in their text. For again, they're saying, oh, I can actually, oh, no. Where was I? There we go. What did I just do? That is new to me. Did I just do that? Oh, okay. Okay, that makes more sense. The thing is, what I just did is I can actually do this with, topics and org mode. This is org mode in action. It is actually Alt plus your arrow keys. You can actually move things around. And if I'm not mistaken, I can do this for me to increase the topic type. Interesting things about org mode. Anyway, let's keep on going. We have line number types. I can save this once again, and I can even evaluate this in the future. For the moment, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, disable text wrap. Text wrap is probably going to be one very important thing for me. I will do that. Thank you. For the sake of simplicity, right, I will just have my configs and the thing that I'm using, I would just have this by my side so that I can actually have it a bit better. But I will have this a little bit smaller. There we go. Anyway, where was I? So now we can just do is disable the text wrap. What text wrapping means is if I do something like, oh, I have a bunch of text on my right side of the screen, what it's going to actually do is, for most things, it will just say, oh, go to the next line. For scratch buffers, text in general, I do not want that. I want for any type of buffer, if there is any text that goes beyond my barrier of my screen, I don't want to have it trinket or trunket. I want to have it as God intended. In that case, is going into foreverness or whatever it is. In other words, I'm just gonna disable or just trunket. I know it's trunket. No, actually, it's text wrap. That's what I call it. I'm just gonna keep it for it's a really good one. Text wrap. Whoops. Lisp. Text wrap now. I'm just gonna do is set Q default. It's trunket lines 1. In other words, trunket lines mean that they are going to be by default going to the abyss. Okay, there we go. Save this. Okay, now that's there. So now, what would happen is, if I were to do something like this, there we go. E by default. Great, it works. Next, we can probably do is text wrapping. We did that. Cursor type. I'm not going to change the cursor type to be fair. For by default, Emacs has the type that I like the most. And I think that most people do like the bean. or the bar, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to have it there. You can change it if you want, but I don't think you need to. Again, it is a Kickstarter. You should probably have more things that necessary. You can probably take into consideration something like the what is Gen 2. Gen 2 is by far one of those projects that they are really, really, really interesting for how much documentation they have available. So I would probably say that for the moment, let's just keep on going with some interesting things before we just kill the recording right now. Where let's just finish the default things that we're gonna have, and on our next episode, I will probably just keep on adding more stuff, and I'll just update you on what we're doing right now. But the thing is, we're gonna do is this. So now we need to just define this auto backup files that I kindly dislike. Like backup files that are generated automatically, they are just annoying to me. They make no sense. You're a professional. Write your things the way that you'd like them to be written. Don't be defined or don't be restrictive or I need to have something keeping me alive. Like Emacs is useful for some things, but that is not one of those things. Be professional. Be responsible for your own actions. So the thing is, we have backup files. So we have auto backup files. By default, Emacs do back them up. I will, by default, not back them up, but you can enable them back to be backed up. And the autosave files, I will also disable them, for I dislike them a bunch. So we have auto backup files, and we have autosave files. Both of them, my goodness. Emacs Lisp, both of them, I'll just say nil. In other words, I'm just gonna dislike them. Dislike them is one of the most stupid sentences that I've ever said. There we go. What was I? So now we have set queue make backup files nil, and autosave list file prefix also not going to be available. Same thing in here. Emacs. Again, man, why is that? The autosave files thing again. Set queue autosave default autosave default nil. There we go. That should be enough. I'll save config.org. Move line up and down. I've never used this, to be fair. I'm not gonna use that again. Custom header. The custom header thing is actually pretty useful, but the thing is, for most people, this is not gonna be useful in a Kickstart thing, in a Kickstart project. So, kind of useless. Disable scratch and message buffer on startup. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I kind of did that in my versions. Not useful in here at all. Default shell for the terminals. These are again something really, really. It's not ideal to have your terminal being part of your configs unless you really want them to. So I'm not going to add that either. It's not really necessary. So for the sake of us having done this, let me just have this then like so. This guy I'm just going to show back there. I will restart Emacs for now so we can actually see what we did for our current from scratch configs for Kickstarter part 1, right? So as you can see, we no longer have an Emacs project that is massive in size, right? That's what she said. So now we can just remove config, org. I will just org this guy here, and I'm just going to do the same thing with init.el, this guy. There we go. I don't need that anymore. So now we have autosave listing. I don't need that anymore either. So remove recursive force autosave list. I don't need that either. Now, as you can see, now we have all of these in here. It's all that we have available for our Kickstart thing. It works and it's pretty cool, right? But the thing is, okay, not this one, not this one. So now if I were to start Emacs from, again, from the configs that we just made, we have again, it's gonna load. And because it loads like that, it's gonna take around a second for it to parse everything that we just did. Not that much time, but we can make it better because now imagine that we have the Emacs client. So we have Emacs daemon. I think it was Emacs daemon. Okay, there we go. See, it took barely any moments, but a good thing now is that we can actually use an Emacs client. So we can do Emacs, where were you? I think it was Emacs client. There we go. And I think it was NC. There we go. So again, instantly it opens, and it's really interesting to see how it does this. And the good thing about it is that because it is a server-client experimentation, we don't actually need to kill anything. But if we wanted to, we can. But I think we can just do that, Emacs, and it just kills any instance of Emacs that we have available. But we can still just open any new server-client relationship with Emacs that will just work. Anyway, we have finished our first part of our refresh of our Emacs configs. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun listening to me configure my Emacs. I will be pushing this into my project, into my Emacs directories in GitLab. So let me just let me just stop first talking like a baby. Config, my goodness, config, Emacs, and Emacs, there we go. My goodness, git status, amazing, git add all. Actually, what I'm going to do is git add init.el. My goodness, git add init.el. It will be custom.el, config.org, and that's it. Git status. These are all the things that we actually need. Config.el will not be needed to be sent as anything that I need. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense for me to have that. Anyway, I just need to now do is a git commit with a message of kickstart or kickstart. I'll just say core functionality and visuals, or better yet, configuring visuals. Configuring visuals, right? I think that's pretty much it. Or setup visuals. Yeah, setup visuals and dark mode by default. Right? I guess that should be healthy. Anyway, that should probably be that. Git push. And there we go. Now, the project should be there. There we go, there we go. And now, if we were to start this all over again, kickstart.emacs is 100% .lisp code, and we have all that we need. Now, sure, I will have some, well, I will have some instructions on how it's supposed to work. If you enjoyed and want to test it, and you want to help me out, feel free to do so. I will love to have your feedback. If you enjoyed this, also consider subscribing, consider giving a like, and if you like my work and want to support me in any way, feel free to send me a coffee. I will love to have your coffee. I do also enjoy water, but anyway, as you all know, I'm DevRubes. Have a marvelous 2025. I hope you for the best, and remember, just keep coding.